I think it's high time Kenyans started being realistic about what's going on in the country, especially when it comes to issues of national debt, politics, the BBI, and everything that is going on at the moment. As it is, the Kenyan shilling has lost ground against the US dollar so considerably because of the basic reasons that we know that have been contributed majorly by the COVID pandemic. But as a country, we are not doing that well in terms of how we manage our resources and how we apply those resources in the creation of employment for the young generation, and how we apply those resources in trying to promote social justice and the institutions that have been put in place to enable the country to move forward, to make good use of those resources. The national government needs to make more effort in terms of preventing the recklessness that has been seen in ministries, in the county governments, where resources are used anyhow without regard to law, especially the KEMSA scandals that just happened recently, which is so disheartening when you consider the pandemic and how it has ravaged the country. Sometimes it's good to take stock of where we are as a country. Our leaders sometimes they tend to be too comfortable because they have it all. They have grown in families where resources were in plenty. They didn't lack nothing. And sometimes they might not be able to understand where the country is coming from in terms of trying to build strong institutions to safeguard the interests of the weak and the vulnerable in the society. We need to put some measures that will be able to enable our leaders to be more accountable to the Kenyans and the Kenya as a country, especially our president and the Right Honorable the Prime Minister. Sometimes it's good to push forward some agendas like the BBI, but also it's good to put into consideration some of the things that are happening in the country at the moment. And from where I stand, I sit, it doesn't look like they try to take into consideration the current issues that are affecting the country, especially the joblessness of the youths who have gone to school, learned, they have earned their degrees, they have used resources from the poor families that they come from, and now when it's time for them to try to give back to the community or to their own individual families, it becomes so difficult because there are no measures that have been put in place by the government to help them try to start off in life. And it's so worrying because there are so many of them. Every year the country channels out thousands of youths from different institutions who are qualified to do a lot of things, but as it is, it seems the government has different priorities, spending their resources in things that probably will be able to be staggered over years, and they don't take keen interest on the growing youth population. This as it is at the moment, it might explode because the youths are tired. Women who are keen in taking care of their families are unable to earn a living that is what their qualifications are, and the elite have continued to squander the economy. They have defended those who have done so because they benefit themselves through their political maneuvers and such like. The most important thing that we need to take into account at the moment is that the president, as he is trying to safeguard his legacy, he should be able to think through some of the policies that he is trying to put in place in terms of achieving his legacy. He should be able to think through how the youths are going to benefit, how the women are going to benefit, how the policies that have already been identified through the 2010 Constitution have not been able to be seen through his administration. There are so many things that we can talk about in those aspects, because as it stands at the moment, the president has been an hindering block to most of the things that were supposed to have taken place as a government. But it seems that his focus is in some other places that we are unable to explain it, because you see the issue of the judiciary, where he was unable to appoint those who have been selected by Judicial Service Commission to attend to issues of the judiciary. It's a simple issue that has a trickle-down effect to the well-being of the nation and the common mwananchi. He might have his own reasons, but as the CJ has already explained, some of these things could be dealt with after he has already confirmed those judges, so that justice can be done in our courts. There are so many litigations that were supposed to be effected, but it seems that he's adamant to do his constitutional obligation that has caused a lot of havoc in our judiciary in terms of the case backlog and trying to sort some of the issues that are affecting our economy. These are some of the issues we need to look at attentively and try to focus and see how the country needs to move forward without being prejudicial, without being seen in a way that it's trying to block some of the things that it's doing. That being said, it's good to look at the bigger picture, because the country is just one of the 54 nations in the African Union. African Union is bringing forth tremendous progress in terms of the African continental free trade area that seems to be at the back end of the government's efforts to push in terms of educating the youths, educating companies, and trying to put into place the framework, policies that will be able to govern the success of African free trade area. It's easy to sign those documents and just deposit them, but it's more important for a country to educate its population, to educate the businessmen and women so that they can be able to participate effectively in achieving those goals that have been put place in the African Free Trade Area Agreement that is supposed to take effect in 1st of January 2021. That being said, it's also important to help in a way, because the rate of unemployment amongst the youths is so high that the regional integration should be key in terms of creating employment to our youths through business creation, through startups that are formally supported by the government or the financial institutions, where deliberate measures needs to be put in place for the government and the financial institutions, so they can support the startups, so that they can participate fully in the upcoming AfCFTA in terms of trade, because we don't need to leave this to the international countries like China, USA, the European Union to come and dominate the initiatives that have already been taken by the African Union, which have been clearly been put forward by the president of Algeria, who has been steadfast, who has clearly demonstrated a role in the transformation of the regional integration blocks into an African Union that is free to trade within itself. The intra-trade should be one of the priorities of the 21st century. But we need also to take into account some of the initiatives that have been put in place by the international communities, especially the United Nations, the American government, on the climate change and the initiatives that need to be put in place so that we can alleviate some of the effects that have already been caused by the disastrous nature of our companies and organizations in terms of releasing ozone destruction gases into the atmosphere that need to be to be taken down gradually so that we can be able to coexist in an environment that is peaceful, an environment that is free from pollution, an environment that is free from natural disasters that can be somehow mitigated through best practices in the manufacturing companies, best practices in our industries, best practices in different spheres of our day-to-day working environment. That being said, it's also important to say that it's good for Kenya as a country to be able to put up some of the initiatives that have already been able to succeed in some areas, especially the banning of the plastic bags that has been able to take effect for the last 2 years, which has, in a bigger extent, been able to help some of the African countries, especially Rwanda, to be a green city. Actually, Rwanda is one of the green cities in the world because they took that initiative seriously and they were able to follow through and implement the policies that that are able to safeguard the environment, so that we can be able to live in a world that is free of pollution and emission of dangerous gases to the atmosphere. So this being our first station, we'll be able to discuss more issues as time goes by. But for now, I'd like to say bye-bye. Thank you, and let's meet again next time for more episodes.